People, Deluded, I'm back again. Good morning, I hope you're all doing well and safe. Almost had to restart that vid, but couple of things to speak about. Don't need to be here long because the majority of it's probably nonsense, but moving forward, apparently Arsenal will have to be creative in the next transfer window as they will not have much cash to spend. And this is all coming out of the Mirror, and it's also linked us again with Ryan Fraser, who is obviously a free agent and we've been linked with before. This season he's dropped off massively. In 27 appearances he's got 1 goal, don't know for the assist. And obviously we had to be creative last year in how we structured payments to Pepe and other things we did. And one minute you're hearing Arsenal stacking money to save and then do a madness in the summer, then you're hearing this. Again, it's not exactly anything new. We've heard this. Again, it's with the Mirror, so we've got to take it with a pinch of salt because we heard this last season. And we, again, regardless of how we structure the payments, we went and signed Pepe, so we have to take it with a pinch of salt. But to a degree, you have to wonder how limited we actually are, and you have to wonder something has to give. Are we going to inject funds and kind of bite the FFP bullet? Are we really going to spend money? Because we need. I think I speak for all Arsenal fans when I say we don't need to. Obviously, we probably do need to spend about 300 million. But if you could spend on at least for me 3 real quality additions, a centre half and 2 central midfielders, then I'm sure everyone would be happy. I don't think we're calling to go and sign Jadon Sancho and Neymar and Mbappe and all these guys. Lord knows we can't. It is what it is. The report went on to say as well as that Aubameyang is likely to go as he has a year left. Lacazette wants Champions League football and maybe can raise funds to reshuffle the side. And I think Lacazette will be able to find a Champions League club, but in your form right now, I don't even think you'd find a London Cup side really and truly, Lacazette, much less the Champions League. He's 28, 29, he's got to think about his future. If he wants to leave, let's keep it moving, because as much as I like Lacazette, I wouldn't say it's necessarily a loss. He's got great strengths, but he's not 20 league goals material. People speak of his creativity. We're Arsenal. If you bring in the creative players that can fill the creative void that we've been missing, and you get a strike, and you was to keep Aubameyang or sign a striker with 20 league goals, I don't think you miss Lacazette, beyond the fact of he's a good player and whatnot, of course. It's a bit cocky of him to want to go and play Champions League football. You need to start scoring goals. He ain't scored under your new manager, so let's fix up first and foremost. Apparently Leno is also attracting big interest. It hasn't specified who is specifically interested in our goalie, but you could imagine there's people who are. And if I'm Leno, I'd be a bit peed off because, again, it's not Arteta's fault, but the moment he was here, he hasn't had a stable back 5 to work with. There's been no stable, including him in the back 5. There's not been no back 5 unit that's been playing consistently and whatnot. Obviously, he's seen it with Luiz and Socrates and things like, and Bellerin to a degree, but he's not really had a capable back 5. And to be fair, Leno could go and get Champions League somewhere, really and truly, or do something at another club. So it is what it is in that regards for him, people. Moving forward from that though, and Saliba played in the 2-1 victory in the Coupe de la France for St Etienne. I must admit he had a mixed game, people. I think it was a game where you could learn a lot about Saliba, because against Metz with Diallo, he was terrorised. I think with Saliba, he was overcomplicating stuff on the ball at times and putting pressure on his teammates. He needs to find balance, and to a degree, yesterday was the first game I kind of saw where he knows how good he is, but it's not about remembering how good you are. It seems like he was admiring his pass a bit too much, not enjoying it a bit too. I don't know how to phrase it, but enjoying it a bit too much. It's like he knew how good he was, and that's a good thing, but it's also a bad thing because I think at times you got to keep it simple, and I think his passing put people under pressure. He obviously conceded a penalty. Now I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what the ref's doing. It's a soft penalty. It's like you dribbling past me, people, and me doing that. He never dropped or nothing. It's a soft penalty. The only criticism I can say is you gave the ref a decision. Listen, 9 times out of 10 it's not a penalty, people. It's not, but the one time it is. Either way, they had St Etienne advanced 2-1 to the next round. I think Lyon, Rennes, PSG clubs like this are still involved in such competition. But I'd say the main thing, I think Fofana played decent as well, people, and he probably gets a move. He needs to be able to, I'd say he needs to just stop watching himself play and stop admiring. It's like my manager used to say in grassroots, don't just admire the picture, go and paint another one. It's like he's played a lovely pass, or when he's enjoying football, he's enjoying it too much. He's obviously 18, 19, so that's going to be a thing. Like I said, he played alright, but at times I think he's trying too hard, and I think his positioning at times can improve. But he's a young man, and this is why I watch these games, so I can learn a lot about these players. But in relation to St Etienne, you have to rate his mentality, people, because he's always bigging up the team. He's got a resolute mentality. He's always someone that the fans can identify with. And he has said For now, I'm 300% focused on St Etienne. My head isn't elsewhere. Next year I'll be at Arsenal, but I still follow their results. And that's what you want to hear from him, people. Moving away from that, though, and Besiktas are set to hold talks with Arsenal over a move for Mohamed El Nene in relation to making it permanent. Didn't we hear they didn't want to make him permanent? Apparently they want to renegotiate the 18 million buy option though, because they can't currently afford it. And to be fair, 18 million for El Nene is probably daylight robbery, folks. I forgot to mention, but the Mirrors also said Guendouzi, who on 1 minute we're going to give a new contract to, could be sold to raise funds. Don't know the validity of that, but we'll have to see, people. Moving away from that, and Reece Nelson has bigged up Arteta. He has said, you can see it because Mikel's drive is different. I haven't seen a manager with that much determination to make individuals better players. I have all my belief in Mikel, and I think he's going to make me into a top player. It's crazy because you look at Sterling and Sane and you see them before at their previous teams. They weren't doing what they do now. I think that is credit to Pep, of course, but Arteta as well, because they said he did a lot of one-to-one work with them. And that should, I mean, Nelson, you've got a long, at the same time, it's you who's got to realise that potential. Arteta can only take you so far, but that's what you want to hear, man. He believes in the coach. Obviously, Arteta's believing in him and working with him. And what was it? Was it against United or whatever Nelson started, where Nelson's had some tough periods? Mikel's kept faith in him, and that's what you want to hear. And Nelson's had a tough time at Arsenal since he's come into the first team. It hasn't all been plain sailing. There's been a lot of question marks. And for me, I just want to see him play with some more confidence. And if your manager believes in you and you believe in your manager, you're that much more likely to have the confidence I'm claiming I want you to have, people. Or I could be wrong completely in that regards, people. Hopefully it is as well. I'm not going to read it out to you lot, I was, but there's no point. He also was doing some Arsenal community work, and he more or less spoke on the influences that his brother and sister had on him being youth workers around the Aylesbury estate or in Peckham or wherever in South during, you know, it's a tough period. And he's almost said that football, if it wasn't for football, he, like a lot of people, could have been caught up in a madness, really, like you see with the drugs and the gangs and all of these things. But he testaments his siblings for keeping him out of that stuff. And he also spoke about as well that when him and SANCHO used to play football, people always want to put them in competition together, and it used to get a bit annoying in a positive sense. So that's what you want to hear, man. The main thing is I see no reason why Nelson, I'm not here to say best in the league and stuff. I don't see no reason why Nelson can't be a 10-goal, 10 assist sort of player. Worst comes to worst, a squad player for Arsenal. I think he's got it in him to help us in some capacity moving forward, man. I think a couple of these boys do. Is what it is in that regards. Moving on though, and finally I'll leave you with Ceballos' comments on Nuno Emery. I should have mentioned these earlier in another vid, but he said, Unai was key for me to be at Arsenal. I go out to play at a club like Arsenal because apart from being a giant, Unai practically comes to my house to tell me that he loves my football, that he has liked me since Betis. A coach is key to getting your maximum performance. Unai told me I'd be important with him, and I had no doubt about going there. And he's actually also said he blames himself for his injury as well, people. It's nice to see that he's riding for Emery, even though Emery didn't want to play him, but that's nice, man. Hopefully he can get Arteta's faith, which you've said you're trying to. He spoke in relation to his injury, which has complicated his time at Arsenal. He said, or it's a recurring injury, more or less, really. He said he partly blames himself. He said, it was in Goiás in Portugal. I think it was due to the excess of matches. I had 17 games in 2 months. I was the only player who had played all them games. At the time, I spoke with Unai and told him that in all competitions, as long as I could and my body allowed it, I wanted to play in all. Sometimes you have to learn from mistakes because it cost me an injury, but you learn everything. And that's what it is, man. That's that exuberance of wanting to do well for a manager who's had faith in you and obviously wanting to play football and get your career back on track of sorts, people. So it is what it is in regards to that, people. So yeah, there's not really anything more to speak on. Saliba's still developing. Obviously, I don't know what to make of the Mirror's publication because a lot of it is already common knowledge. Ceballos, hopefully he can have a good end to the season, and the same goes for Nelson moving forward as a collective group of players. But for now, I've got nothing more to add, people, so I'm going to get out of here. As usual, your support means the world. Thank you very much for that. DG, I'm out. Thank you.